Have you ever copied a hairstyle on Pinterest and it ended up looking completely different on you? Well, in this video, I'm going to teach you how professionals analyze face shape, how to identify yours correctly, and how to choose a hairstyles that work best for your proportions. So, what is face shape? Simply put, face shape is a relationship between your forehead width, your cheekbone width, your jawline width, and the face length. So, whenever you hear face shape, that's what we are referring to. It's just the relationship between these four proportions. The main reason why most people struggle to identify their face shape is that most people, or even the celebrities they're looking up to, don't fit into one category only. That is to say, that face shape exists on a spectrum, and some people are usually a blend of two shapes, like oval and square, oval and round, heart and diamond. So most people tend to have two different shapes, not just one. And this is why understanding the proportions matters more than understanding the labels. Most people just think an oval shape is supposed to wear this hairstyle and a round this hair, but then what happens when the person is not exactly an oval and not exactly a round? So it matters that you know the proportions more than you know the labels. You also need to understand that there are certain things that can affect the way a face looks. One of them being fluctuations in weight, even the hairstyles, or even like the camera angle that the pictures are taken in, it sort of distorts the way a face shape looks. Now let's get into it. How do you measure your face shape? You have two methods. I'm going to give you the first one, which I believe that everyone have access to, which is simply using your camera. So what's going to happen is you go to the camera and you take a picture straight on. You open the camera and you just look. One other thing, you need to put your hair all the way back before you take this picture. That way things are not distorting your face and we can see like the exact shape that you have. So I'm gonna do mine now, and I have it here. So how do I use this picture to decide the face shape that I have? First of all, you need to have an idea of what basic shapes look like. A square, an oval, a heart, a diamond. You need to have an idea of what these shapes look like. And then you need to look at yourself and determine where exactly do I fall in. Personally, I'll leave this method to professionals because it's easier for them to look at a picture and figure it out. But now, if you're struggling, I think the second method will work better for you. And that is using a measuring tape. So how do you use a measuring tape to determine your face shape? So you need to start, wait, let me get my mirror so I can actually see it properly. The first measurement we're going to take is the face length, and that will start from the hairline to the jawline. Make sure you stretch your tape properly. So for me, wait, 10? That's too long, hold on. I need to be sure I did it properly. So my face length is 9.7, and I'll put that down. The next measurement is the forehead, and that is simply, this is your forehead. Here onto here, that is your forehead. Your forehead does not extend like this. That's not the forehead. The forehead is simply this bony prominence here that protrudes a little bit and where it starts here. So for me, my forehead is a 5. So I'm going to put down 5 as my forehead. The next measurement is going to be the cheek, and that is the highest measurement of your cheek to the next cheek. And for me, that will be from here up onto here. So my cheek is exactly a 6. The next one is going to be the jawline, and this is the only point where you measure from here. Listen, let me show you where your jawline actually starts from. If you touch here, you can actually feel your jawbone, like literally here, your jawbone, you can feel it if you touch it. So that is where you measure from. So the jawline measurement goes from, hold on, exactly there, up onto here. For me, that is a 5.2. So 5.2 for my jawline. So now that we have the measurements, I'm going to give you the easiest way for you to identify your face shape. Go to Google and look for this calculator called the Omni calculator. I'm going to find a way to link it in the description for you. So when you go there, it has hold on, I'm going to put a screenshot for you as well so you can see it. The first measurement it asks for is the forehead. My forehead is 5, so I'm going to put 5 there. Make sure you select whether it's inches or cm, depends on which one you used. My cheek is a 6, the jaw is 5.2, and my face length is 9.7, so I'm going to put it down there. So the next thing it's going to ask you are the features. Do you have sharp features, or they're rounded or somewhat? So personally, my features are not sharp, they're not rounded per se, because I think I have a very sharp cheekbone. So I'm going to select somewhat because it's like a mix of both sharp and rounded. And now it says you have an oval face. This is why I say that it matters that you know proportions more than the face shape, because looking at me, you would assume I'm a round face because I have very full cheekbone, but that's not the only thing you look at. You have to look at all the proportions together. So So the calculator here says I have an oval face, and I agree with that. I have an oval face with somehow rounded cheeks, which makes it look round. So sometimes I like to say I'm a mix of oval and round. Does that make sense? Good. So now that we have this down, we are going to move on to the various face shapes that you have, and the first on my list is an oval face. So how do you identify an oval face? When it comes to an oval face, the length is always greater than the width. The face is longer than its wide. The second thing is the forehead width, the cheekbone width, and the jawline width are usually the same. The next one is the length of the chin is usually smaller than the jawline. I don't think we actually took a measurement of the chin, so let me just do it so you can understand what I'm saying. So how to measure the chin is simply put, you measure your chin from here. So here, hold on, I want to use the inches, sorry. So my chin actually starts from here all the way here. So my chin is 3 inches, which I'm going to write down. The last telltale sign is the cheekbone tends to be very soft with no defined or sharp angles, which is why looking at me, you would think I'm not an oval face because I have a very defined cheekbone. But then, like I said, it's usually not like a perfect match. And that is why understanding proportions matters more than labels. The next shape is round face. This is a shape that most people for some reason think that they have. But in my opinion, I think because most of us tend to be overweight or obese, and the body stores fat on the face, making you look rounded, even though that's not like your actual defined face. And that is why when most people lose weight, they figure out that, oh, I actually don't have a round face, I was just fat. So how do you identify a round face? For me, this is very simple. The length of the face is always and usually the same as the width of the face. They are usually equal to each other, unlike the oval face where the length is greater than the width. In a round face, the length and the width are one and the same. Also, a round face tends to have a very soft jawline. It's not defined, it's not pointy, it's very soft. And then the cheeks are usually fuller in round faces. The next shape is a square. How do you identify a square face? When it comes to a square face, the forehead width, the cheekbone width, and the jawline width tends to be the same. It's like a perfect square. A square face also tends to have a very strong and angular jawline. You can see a very defined jawline in a square face. The chin is not pointy, it's usually square. The face is not soft, it's very angular and structured. A square face also tends to have very bold, striking features that you can't help but notice their features. It's just there in your face. All in all, a square is very balanced and proportioned, so whenever you look at them, you can tell that this is a perfect square. The next shape is a hat face. How do you identify a hat face? A hat face is almost like, in some sense, an inverted triangle. It is very wide at the forehead and very narrow at the chin. The next one is a hat face tends to have very high prominent cheekbones like a hat. And like I mentioned, the jawline is usually very narrow like an inverted triangle. People that have this face tend to look very soft, feminine, and in some sense delicate, which then takes us to the next shape, which is a diamond face. How do you identify a diamond face? When it comes to a diamond face, the main feature you're going to notice is the cheekbone tends to be the widest part of the face, like a diamond, Yeah, so the cheekbones are very defined and spread out. It's the widest part of the face. The next thing is, like a diamond, the forehead and the jawline tends to be very narrow. And because it's a diamond, the chin is very pointy. Also, another feature is the face tends to be very long with the well-defined cheekbones, like I mentioned. A diamond face is very striking and angular. You cannot but notice the very defined cheekbone that they have. The next shape is a rectangle or oblong face. How do you identify an oblong face? The first thing is the face appears longer than it is wide. And because it's an oblong, the forehead, the cheekbone, and the jawline tends to be the same width or nearly the same. Also, the cheekbones are not wide, so there's nothing striking about the cheekbones. The next thing is the jawline tends to be very straight with little or no definition or angles to it. It's just straight. In some cases, in an oblong face, the chin tends to be square, not rounded. Overall, what you see is that the face is balanced, it's long, and it's beautiful, which then takes us to the final shape. The final shape is a triangle. How do you identify a shape that is triangular? The first feature that you're going to notice is, just like a triangle, the jawline tends to be the widest part of the face. And just like a triangle, the cheekbone tends to be wider than the forehead. That is, the forehead is the narrowest part of the face. Another thing is the chin tends to protrude, it tends to be long. That is, it's narrower and pointier. So in a triangle, the face appears wider at the bottom and then it sort of tapers at the top. And there you have it, the 7 shapes that most faces tend to fall into. Now that you know all the shapes, most people rush into thinking, well, since I'm an oval face, I have to wear this hairstyle, and since I'm a round face, I have to wear this hairstyle, and since I'm a square face, I have to wear this hairstyle. It's not that simple. There are some caveats you need to be aware of when it comes to face shape. There are actually some things, some features that can override the shape face rules. So even though you have an oval face or a round face, there are certain features that, if dominant, it sort of overrides the rules on how to style your face. So I'm going to give you a rundown of all the things that can override the rules when it comes to face shapes. Number 1 is the size of your forehead. If you have a very prominent forehead, that is something that is going to draw attention a lot, and you cannot style yourself the way you usually style other people who who don't have large foreheads. So when it comes to large foreheads, we want to go for cutting bangs or light bangs that sort of, hides it a little bit. I don't like using the word hide, but sort of soften it a little bit. Yeah, so you need cotton bangs to soften a large forehead. The second thing that can override the shape of your face is a strong jawline. If you have a strong jawline, you could benefit from hairstyles that in some way softens it, right? So you have to avoid hairs that have very sharp cuts and go for something that softens it. The next feature that can override the face rules is if you have very full cheeks. You cannot style an oval face with full cheeks the way you would style an oval face without full cheeks, right? Because if you style them the same, it's going to look off, and that is why sometimes you have the same face shape as someone, but then a hairstyle doesn't look quite the same on you. That could be because there's a feature that is overriding the rules for that face shape. The next one is rarely discussed, but it is very important, and that is the size of your nose. The size of your nose can override the rules when it comes to styling your face shape. If you have a very prominent or large nose, you might try to avoid having symmetry on the face, because if you do like anything like a center pattern, it draws attention to the center of the face, which is the nose. So for someone with a prominent nose, you might benefit more from a side part. So regardless of your face shape, you might have to style yourself differently if you have a prominent nose compared to how they will style someone with the same face shape but without a prominent nose. The next feature that can override the way you style your face is something you don't see coming, but that is the size of your eyes. If you have very small eyes, you're better off staying away from hairs that sort of covers the eyes and make it smaller, something like bangs. You are better off going with like, open hair, that is hair that sort of opens the face up. You don't want something that closes it more and make the eyes look smaller. The next feature that can override the rules when it comes to face shape is the length of your neck. This is something that most people don't think about, but the length of your neck can actually override the rules when it comes to styling yourself. Say for instance, you have a short neck, you might want to avoid hairs that are bulky at the shoulder. Why, if you have a longer neck, you can carry most styles beautifully, even if that doesn't work for your face shape. The next thing that can override your face shape is the size of your ear. If you have a small ear or a very protruding ear, it can actually affect the way your face looks. You cannot style a round face with a protruding ear the same way you will style a round face without that. I've gone through the length of mentioning all this because, at the beginning I said that it's not about knowing your face shape. You need to understand your proportions. Proportions matters as much as shape does. So it's not just about the shape. You need to understand your proportions. Do you have big eyes? Do you have big forehead? Do you have protruding ears? You cannot style yourself the same way you will style someone that doesn't have all those features as well. All this is to say that two individuals with the same face shape might need to be styled differently because they have different features. Now that we have all this down, it is time to move on to real life examples. I'm going to show you pictures of celebrities that have the same face shape, but I want you to actually look at how they sort of differ from each other because of certain features that they have. That is, apart from the shape of their face, I want you to take note of the features that they have. So when it comes to oval face, the first person I'm going to give you is Beyonce. Based on the rules I gave you earlier on, can you actually see that she's an oval face? The length of the face is just the same as the width of the face, so she's a perfect oval. And then the next one is Jessica Alba. She's also an oval face. The next one is Jennie Kim. Jennie Kim has an oval face. Let's now move on to round face, and the first celebrity that has a round face is Lizzo. Lizzo has a round face. Now that she's lost weight, Lizzo is actually a mix of oval and round, but she's more round than she's oval, so I kind of classified her as a round face. So Lizzo has a round face. Take note of her features. Do you see that the length of the face and the width of the face are exactly the same? And that is a telltale sign of a round face. And her features are also rounded. The next one is Selena Gomez. Selena has a round face, but can you tell that she differs a little bit from Lizzo based on certain features? One has fuller lips than the other one. That's why I say don't just style the shape, you need to style the proportions. The next celebrity with a round face is Bae Suzy. She has a round face. Take a look at her properly. That is a classic round face. Next, we go on to square face, and the first person here is Angelina Jolie. Angelina Jolie is a perfect example of a square face, a beautiful square face. Sometimes people think that having a square face makes you look masculine, but I am so glad that we have celebrities that prove that that is not the truth. You can have a square face and still look very feminine and beautiful and delicate. I'm content that Angelina Jolie is a perfect example of what being feminine with a square face. The next person is Jodie Turner-Smith. She has a square face, a beautiful square face, and you can tell that she looks very feminine. The next one is Ming, but can you tell how her square face sort of looks different from that of others because of some features that she have, something like the small eyes and the protruding ears? Can you see that she looks different from other ones even though they have the same face shape? Let's move on to the heart face, and the first celebrity here is Reese Witherspoon. So Reese Witherspoon is a celebrity with a heart face. Can you see the features properly? She has a prominent forehead and then it tapers down at the chin the shape of a hat. The next one is Sky Jackson. Sky Jackson is a perfect hat face, and you can see that she looks beautiful and feminine and soft. The next one is IU. I don't know how you pronounce that, but she's an Asian with a perfect hat face, a prominent forehead and a chin that tapers. Moving on to the diamond face, and remember that when it comes to the diamond face, the cheekbone tends to be the widest part of the face, and then the forehead and the jawline, sort of tapers like a triangle. So the first celebrity with a diamond face here is Vanessa Hudgens. So Vanessa is a perfect diamond face. You can see how the cheekbone is the widest part of her face, then the rest of them narrows down. The next one is Rihanna. Rihanna has a diamond face, but why I put her here is there is something that I want you to take note of. She has a diamond face, but can you tell that Rihanna's forehead does not taper off? She has a wide forehead. That's why I say that people tend to be hybrid and not necessarily fit into one space only. Someone can be a mix of something and something else. So you can see that Rihanna has a diamond face, but then she has a large forehead. But when it comes to a diamond face, the forehead is supposed to taper off like a triangle, but in her case that is not true. So now when it comes to styling Rihanna or someone like Vanessa, you cannot style them the same because Rihanna has a prominent forehead while Vanessa does not. The next diamond face is Lucy Liu. She's Asian, and if you look at her properly, you can tell what this is a diamond face. But take a look at the eyes. Because of the shape of her eyes, you cannot style her the same way you would style someone like Rihanna that has open eyes. That's why I said don't just look at the shape, look at the features as well. The next one is a rectangle or oblong face, and the first celebrity here is Jordan Dunn. Jordan has an oblong face. If you look properly, you don't need to be told, you can tell that this is a perfect oblong face. She has a very long face and she's beautiful too. The next person is Sarah Jessica Parker. Sarah has a perfect oblong face. It's a long face and it's beautiful. Next one is Sarah Oh. Sarah Oh is an Asian, and you can see that because of her features, her oblong face cannot be styled exactly the same way that that of a black or a white person will be styled. Don't just focus on shapes, look at the features as well. Moving on to the triangle face. Remember that in triangle, the feature that you see the most is the jawline. It tends to be the widest part of the face, and the first celebrity here that has a triangle face is Minnie Driver. Minnie Driver is a perfect example of a triangle face. You can see that the jawline is the widest part of her face. The next person is Fantasia Barrino. Fantasia's face is wider at the base than it is at the top. That is a triangle face. The next one is Zhang Ziyi. Zhang Ziyi is a perfect example of an Asian with a triangle face as well. The reason I have shown you all these pictures is to tell you that you can be beautiful regardless of the shape that you have. For some reason, people think that if you have an oval face, that makes you more beautiful, but that's not the truth. As you can see, all the people I've shown you so far, you can see how beautiful they look. Even like the square face, people think that square face makes you look masculine. Do you think these people look masculine? Because in my opinion, they don't. They look beautiful. So regardless of the face shape that you have, what matters is how you style yourself. If you can style yourself properly, you will look just as beautiful as the next person. Now we have come to the final part, the hairstyles that goes with each shape. But first, I need you to know that this is the first video in a series of videos I plan to make around face shape. So I'm going to make a more detailed video on the hairstyles that go with each face shape. But in the meantime, I'm still going to give you a rundown of the hairstyles that can work for you. Number one, oval face. When it comes to oval face, because the face is very long, it is longer than it is wide. So the last thing you want to do is to add more length. You don't want to put the face down more and make people think that the face is longer than it is. So when it comes to an oval face, you try to avoid any hairstyle that causes the face to drag down. Instead, because the width is more, you want to add width, and that is where you have something like cutting bangs, layered cuts, anything that adds width to the side of the face so that there's a balance between the length and the width. The second one is a round face. The goal in styling a round face is to maintain balance. Because the face is just as long as it is wide, you don't want to make the face overly long or overly wide. So the hairstyle that will look good on a round face is layered cut. Anything with layers, you don't want something that just goes all the way down, because you want the layers to add as much width as it's adding the length. Also, because a round face is round, you have to find a way to add length. So any hairstyle that adds length at the crown is perfect for a round face. So you want something like a ponytail, or even like what I have on currently, something that adds length to the face so that it makes the face look longer than it is. A round face also looks good when you break the symmetry, that is by adding a side part. A center part makes it very obvious that someone is a round face, but a side part sort of breaks that symmetry, and that symmetry is what creates the illusion that you have more length than you do. All I'm saying is when it comes to round face, we need elongation. So whatever adds length to the face, go for that. The next one is a square face. Remember, a square face has so many angles. It's very angular and strong and very defined. So we need to do the opposite. We have to find a way to soften that face, and that is where soft waves and layers come in. You need anything that will soften that very defined look. So cutting bang, layers, waves, curls, they look good on square face because they're very soft. It will help to soften the face as well and frame it properly. The next one is a heart shape. Remember, a heart shape is wider at the forehead and and then it tapers off at the chin. The goal when it comes to a hard face is to add balance at the bottom, because we have a very dominant forehead, so we need something that sort of balances it down here. In styling this shape, you need anything that produces volume around the chin, anything that makes the chin or jawline appear wider than it is. Those are the hairstyles that you need for hard face. The next one is a diamond. Because a diamond have the cheek as the widest part of the face, the hairstyle that we need is anything that will help to soften that cheekbone. We don't want anything that adds more angle or makes it look even bigger than it is already. So we need something to soften the cheekbone, and that is where side part comes in, because it helps to hide some part of the cheekbone and make it look smaller than it is. You also need soft fringes. Soft fringes has a way of framing the face and make the forehead appear like bigger than it is, because remember, in a diamond face the forehead is tapered off just as the chin is tapered off. So what you need is anything that sort of add volume at the forehead or even at the chin. The next one is oblong or rectangle face. Because an oblong is long, the goal here is to find a way to reduce that length, make the face appear shorter than it is. So anything that cuts off vertical lines will look good here. Something like bangs frame the face and make it look smaller than it is. The next one is a triangle face. Remember that a triangle tapers off at the top and is wider at the bottom, so the goal here is to find a way to add volume at the top. So any hairstyle that adds volume at the top will make a triangle face look balanced. Like I said, I'm going to make a more detailed video, and look out for that one next. In the meantime, that's the end of this video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment, and I hope you found this helpful, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye.